All right, next up, we have got the World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab, the president of the World Economic Forum, they had their meeting in Davos this week. Davos, I believe that's Switzerland, right? Mia, where's Davos at? It's in Switzerland. I answered it for you.
In Switzerland?
Yep. The World Economic Forum had their meeting. Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic, the founder, whatever you want to call it, he recently said in a statement that there was no greater threat to his agenda and his goals than libertarians. That's a little weird. Because I don't full-on identify as a libertarian. I've got my gripes with some of their ideology. But to say there's no bigger threat to your agenda than people who just want to be left alone, that's a little sus. What do you got planned here, Klausy? You want to know the background on Klaus Schwab? Klaus Schwab, his parents moved. Him and his parents moved from where is he from? Let's see here. Oh no, his parents moved. Excuse me. His parents moved in the 30s to Germany. What was going on in Germany in the 30s, allegedly?
Concentration camps?
The Holocaust, allegedly, right? No. They moved to Germany. So they saw what was going on with this Hitler guy and said, you know what? I need to get in on that. And that's the environment this psychopath was raised in. They saw what was going on in Germany. His parents did, and they're like, that's a guy we got to pick up our entire lives and get on over to there because this Hitler guy has got things running smoothly. He has righted the ship over there.
Maybe his dad got a really good promotion.
Yeah, really good promotion. I wonder what he was doing. So the World Economic Forum started off the way that it should have. I don't know. Go ahead, check this out here.
A turma chaya no Cambarro Anuri, no Camai, no Camwaka, na Anuri, no Yuyuá, na Warron Chinambo, Punk, Tu Chinam Chavawaki, Chinamo Kikirani, Tsai Chavakirani, Tsai Makikirani.
Mia, what are they saying?
Awama Wanana, no Mahono Wai Sharai.
What are they saying? We need you to translate here. This is Chippewa, right? Look, I'm sure that's some cultural thing, and I don't want to mock someone else's culture, but there's no way in hell that I could sit there with a straight face while somebody did that to me. I would start laughing. And that's why I'm not asked to be there, to be at things like that. But there's no way in hell I could sit there with a straight face and not laugh. Could you? If some woman in a mask is walking around and goes,
she wasn't in a mask. That was face paint.
Face paint and whatever the thing was on her head. See, that's why we had you on here, the expert.
I mean, I wouldn't laugh, but I'd just be, confused. Probably because I wouldn't be paying attention, and then all of a sudden, I just hear that.
It would be hard not to laugh. All right, well, this is the president, the current acting president of the World Economic Forum, Borge Brende. We're going to call him Borge Brenda, because it makes him sound more feminine, like a bitch. Borge Brenda, the president of the World Economic Forum. It's the next one down there. Yeah, he had a question for someone. And go ahead and check out the way this guy worded it. He's the first person talking in this video. Go ahead.
That order seems to not be the order anymore. We are on the way to a new order, so we are between orders.
A new what? A new what?
Do you agree with that, or are there ways of what are we able to keep on the positive side from the old order to bring into a new world order, and how can we avoid that new world order becomes like a jungle growing back, and we rather have an order based on international law and the principles that have brought us prosperity and freedom for decades.
I guess,
I miss the days where you got called a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist if you brought up the New World Order. That you were just a crazy person if you believed in it. There you have it. The president of the World Economic Forum, one of the most influential groups in the world, straight up calling for a new. How do we bring in the new? I can't even talk. It's like European mixed with retard. I don't know what that accent is, but I can't do it. How do we bring in the new world order? They're sitting there talking in your face, asking, how do we enslave these people? How do we get them under a one world government? How do we do it? How do we do away with national and individual sovereignty and get these people on board with our plan? Our plan, by the way, which is not threatened more or by anyone more than people that want to be left alone. How do we get them on board with our agenda? The New World Order. I miss when they at least used to hide it. They used to call you crazy for saying it was a real thing, even though George H.W. Bush openly called for it multiple times back in the 90s on video. But nonetheless, this next one is from Ursula von der Leyen. She is the president of the European Commission. This is her comments on disinformation and polarization and how their new global government and World Economic Forum can solve that issue. Go ahead.
For the global business community, the top concern for the next 2 years is not conflict or climate. It is disinformation and misinformation, followed closely by polarization within our societies. These risks are serious because they limit our ability to tackle the big global challenges we are facing. Changes in our climate and our geopolitical climate. Shifts in our demography and in our technology. Spiraling regional conflicts and intensified geopolitical competition.
That you all fund, yeah.
And their impacts on supply chains. The sobering reality is that we are once again competing more intensely across countries than we have in several decades. And this makes the theme of this year's Davos meeting even more relevant: rebuilding trust. This is not a time for conflicts or polarization. This is a time to build trust. This is a time to drive global collaboration more than ever before. This requires immediate and structural responses to match the size of the global challenges. I believe it can be done.
So they want to combat, again, they want to get their World Economic Forum, one world government together to combat quote-unquote misinformation. The problem is, as we found out again and again and again and again, today's misinformation is tomorrow's facts. Yesterday's conspiracy theories are today's facts, true stories, right? So they want to combat disinformation. This is an information war. That's what this is. They want to control the flow of information. That's why they're so threatened when somebody like Elon Musk buys Twitter, which is or X, don't misgender it. Don't dead name X, okay? That's why they're so threatened by it when somebody like him buys it, because it threatens the global control they have. They can no longer control the flow of information. Community Notes has called so many of these people on so much bullshit just over the last couple weeks. Just over the last couple weeks that they don't know what to do. So it is a massive threat. So make no mistake, they are coming for all of us. Not physically, not yet. We are a lot easier to control when they can control the news we get and see. I mean, you look how they did it with the 2020 election. They openly admit, the mainstream media does, the intelligence agencies, that they collaborated with the Biden campaign to suppress stories that would have painted them in a negative light and amplified ones that made Donald Trump look bad. They stole an election. Maybe they didn't just throw a bunch of votes into a ballot box, but they collaborated and stole an election through collusion. They're going to do that on a massive scale. That's the goal. That's the goal. Which is, I mean, we are very, I have plenty of qualms with Elon Musk. He's far from perfect. But we are very, very lucky that someone who was centered around free speech and truth decided to buy Twitter. Otherwise, I don't know, if Jack Dorsey or anyone else really still owned Twitter and they were still colluding with the Biden administration and the intelligence agencies and all of that hadn't been, had its cover blown off a couple years ago, or year ago, I don't know where we'd be. things would look a lot more bleak than they do right now. Which, I mean, yeah, very fortunate. Very fortunate. That's why there is a glimmer of hope. That's why there's a light at the end of the tunnel, is because I can't stress it enough. X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that is the modern day battlefield right now. Please don't let this thing get physical. That is the modern day battlefield. We have people that are hell-bent on destroying this country and pushing it into an anti-family, anti-American, anti-freedom, Marxist hellhole along with the rest of the world. And that is the lone place where we can combat their narrative without their people hitting us back. Without their people, or excuse me, not without their people hitting us back, without their people censoring us. Which reminds me, I know we get do we get doom and gloom on this show sometimes? Do we get too negative?
Never.
Never. I want you guys to know. I'm going to finish my World Economic Forum segment in a second, but I want you guys to know. I mean, when we talk about this stuff, there are some very nasty people that pull the strings. Some very nasty people that pull the strings in this country and around the world that are trying to push us into a global government, trying to destroy the nuclear family, trying to turn your children against you and your grandchildren against you and pit us against each other over petty things like race and gender and all this crap, economic status, things like that. Very nasty people controlling the world, pulling the strings, intentionally pushing us into a Marxist hellhole, intentionally depopulating the earth because less people are easier to control. But the important thing to remember is I wouldn't be on here doing this show if I didn't think there was at least a little bit of a chance we get out of this. Or even a good chance that we get out of this and we right the ship and make it work. I wouldn't be, I would, there's other things. If I thought it was a waste of time and I was just going to come on here and yell into a microphone about things we could never fix, I wouldn't be doing it. I'd do something else or nothing. I wouldn't sit here and stress myself out. It'd be like, I remember I had a great uncle that lived not far from Offutt Air Force Base, which is where the president goes if the country gets attacked. He lived there during the Cold War. My grandpa asked him, what would you do if the bomb hit? And he said, I'd grab a 6-pack of beer, pull up a chair, and watch the firestorm, because there's nothing else you can do when the nuke hits, right? So I would be acting like the figurative nuke had just hit. There's nothing I can do. I'm just going to hang out, spend time with my family and friends, do other stuff, right? More time in the gym, whatever. But I think there's truly a way out of this. And it reminds me of a quote. We're going to get nerdy here. You ready for this, Mia? It reminds me of a quote from, I watched Lord of the Rings. I rewatched it the other day. And there's a quote from it, and I was watching it, and, you know, I'm working on some other stuff, and I'm just listening to it in the background, and I hear, oh my God, I had to stop, and I rewound it and watched it like 2 or 3 more times. And I'm like, holy shit, they couldn't have painted my perspective on the current state of the world any better than with this quote. And some of you probably know what I'm talking about. It's Sam, the fat hobbit, right? You got to hit him with the sound effect. We got to get a little humorous here.
You fat piece of shit.
Sam, the fat hobbit, talked to Frodo. I'll read it. I got it pulled up here. He said, I know it's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here. But we are. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer. Those are the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folks in those stories had a lot of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going because they were holding on to something, and that something was that there's some good in the world, and it's worth fighting for. So there you go. There is a chance that we can right the ship, and I think there's a good chance, because I think good ultimately does prevail, because I think there's other factors at play that we can't see, right? Spiritual factors at play that we can't see. And yes, they will put us through some bad trials and tribulations. You know, the saying that strong men create good times create weak men create bad times create strong men. Well, we're right where the weak men are creating bad times, the Joe Bidens of the world. And it's crazy how we always seem to get out of this cycle. I mean, law of averages said has to say the bad guys would win sometimes, right? That's why I think there's other other factors at play, and they put us through some of this shit to make us stronger and to make us better men and women, and they thems. No, not they thems. That's part of the evil. Did you know that what demons call themselves? They and them in the Bible. Did you know that? Yeah. They don't refer to themselves as he or she. It's they and them. Yeah. Fun fact. Look that up if you guys want to. But
It's pure evil!
I think they push us through these things because it makes us better. It's like I said, law of averages suggests evil would win sometimes. Good wouldn't always eventually prevail. That's why I think there's something else at play. And there's something else that if we keep pushing through because we hold on to the hope that we can get through this, there's something that will ensure that these cocksucking retards like Klaus Schwab and George Soros and BlackRock and Joe Biden and Dr. Fauci and the pharmaceutical companies and the intelligence agencies and the mainstream media get what's coming to them. And that we pull through. We will. We have the human spirit. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese Spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.